Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Online walo, please let me know if I am audible. So, what we discussed in yesterday's class? Teleological School of Ethics. Sir, इस साल के क्वेश्चन थोड़े lengthy हैं. Yes, this year UPSC asked with lengthy question. So many subparts within the same question. Yes, Suhani, it is because of the pain that are associated with these pleasures that individuals do not go to the extreme of pleasure because they want to avoid the net pain. I gave you the example of alcohol. If you are someone who is liking alcohol, then you are not drinking yourself to death because you want to avoid death. Then that is the ultimate sanction against drinking too much, or let's say having too many sweets, because natural sanctions of health or death, they will actually give you a lot of cost. Any other doubt? Yes, in Shreya Singhal case, the reasoning that the Supreme Court gave, it was not exactly utilitarianism, but if we look at it, the overall experience of that rule was not in the societal, for the societal benefits, and that's why Supreme Court remarked that the section had chilling impact on the liberty. So chilling impact on liberty is basically harming the greatest good for the greatest number of people, and that is why it was striked off. So in a way it is utilitarian principle only, that it was harming at the overall level. Whichever example we gave in the context where it is involving cost, we always, almost always try to justify that in the name of greater good. Ethical altruism always followed by self-harm, not necessarily always. I mean, one who is truly dedicated to altruism, he will not think twice before harming himself for the cause of greater good. That is what the meaning of altruism is. That philosophy is not that much relevant from the perspective of examination because seldom it will be asked directly. Yes, it was in the conflict of rule utilitarianism because overall it was not helpful. If Bentham says there is no qualitative difference between pleasure and pain, then how can it even be quantified? Why? There can be, simply because there is no qualitative difference, and that is why it can be quantified precisely. Because if there was a qualitative difference, then how would you quantify it? Because to quantify anything, all of them have to be in the same metric. That is precisely the assumption. Otherwise, how else will you quantify anything? Tribals may say that happiness for us means different thing, and we may say the happiness for us means different thing. So if we believe in the different qualitative aspect of happiness, then we will never be able to compare the net happiness. So that is what Bentham is saying, that there is no qualitative difference. Understood? Ji. That will come under ethical altruism, yes. Also an example of duty, following duty. One thing that is important, because I'm seeing a lot of doubts on the Telegram at times, that one thing that all of you need to understand, that when humans take actions, that action is not always based on a single strand of theory. There are many. See, in the very first class, we discussed sources of ethics. Yes, that whenever we are deciding what is the right thing to do, we have, source of ethics. The religion will tell us different thing. Our parents will tell us different thing. Our education may tell us different thing. Government may tell us different thing. Understood or not? So basically, similarly, there are different school of thoughts, and all these are like different sources of ethics only. The justice school will say one thing, utilitarian perspective will say another thing, deontological perspective will say another thing. So basically these are different perspective, and it is seldom that when we decide an action, that action is governed by only one particular school of ethics. Usually we try to balance the things, and At time, it just happened that if I am someone, I give the example of Bhishma Pitama. He was like, I will be following my oath only all the time. So then he disregarded all other aspect of school of ethics. Be it that the women were not treated with dignity in the case of Draupadi Chiran. Still, he was not moved because he was like that. I will be governed by my oath only, by my duty to serve the Hastinapur faithfully only. So actually, human actions are a bit complex. And that is why all of us need to understand that when we are writing merits and demerits of course of actions or the different options that are there in your case studies, we are actually evaluating the same action from different perspective. The example of sand mining mafia that I gave you, we are evaluating the concept from different perspective. I gave you an example from virtue ethics, it is making you coward. From utilitarian perspective, it is making you, the consequences are bad actually. And then if you are seeking transfer, then, you are not doing your duty also. So basically, from different perspective, we are looking at things. And that is what you need to understand, that whenever we are taking an action, it is seldom that all these things will align. It may align or it may not align. It will depend upon the action actually. Understood? So that is why don't be under very simplistic assumption, if we are doing this, why we are not doing this. That is the beauty of ethics or the complexity of ethics. That is very difficult to take action, and that is why whatever course of action you take, they will also have certain demerits, because you will be violating one ethics or other whatever course of action you are taking. Understood or not? So that is what you need to understand. Can I discuss ahead? Courage of conviction is an example of ethical altruism. Not necessarily. Courage of conviction operates at individual level. It is basically what you believe in and you are following through it. It is basically that. So can we discuss ahead? Okay. So I think we started our discussion on virtue ethics. Yes? So let me just recapitulate, because we stopped midway in the virtue ethics discussion. So virtue ethics, basically this school of thought tells us that what is the right thing to do? What is the right thing to do? That will make you a virtuous person, or something that is done by a virtuous person, that we are trying to emulate that person. Understood or not? When we were child, our parents would tell us that Sharmaji ka beta is doing this and this. He was like role model for us. For all that matter, all of you are Sharmaji ka beta only, all of you are toppers in your schools and colleges. So basically, some students are role model for other students. Yes. So the parents want their children to emulate that person. So basically, that is the nature of virtue ethics, that what we should do, something that would a virtuous person will do. Understood or not? And in that process of doing that thing consistently, we will also become virtuous person. If we are emulating Sharmaji ka beta in the hope that one day we will become Sharmaji ka beta. Understood or not? Sharmaji ka beta समझ में आया ना? कोई doubt तो नहीं है ना यहाँ पे? It is just like, I don't know, कोई doubt आ सकता है वहाँ से शर्मा जी का क्यों सा, यादव जी का क्यों नहीं? So I don't know. Okay, so basically that is what the virtue ethics focuses on character, that what is the kind of person you will become. One essential, now the question is, I think none of you asked that question, that what do we mean by virtue in this case? So virtues are nothing but good traits of the character. They are essentially the positive character trait. Vices are negative character traits. So when I am talking about character trait, I am talking about certain observable behavior that is consistent in your character. Suppose if I call you an honest person, then will I call you an honest person if you speak, honestly occasionally or consistently? Consistently. So only when you speak consistently, with utmost honesty, then only I will call you a honest person. Understood or not? So now honesty has become part of your character, and that is why it is a virtue. Understood or not? On the other hand, being lazy can be part of your character. That usually it is in your character. Usually it is in your character that you will be lazy only. Then it is a vice. Understood or not? So virtues or vices are basically positive or negative characteristic traits, and these traits are basically consistent pattern of behavior of someone. Then only we'll call them. Can you understand the difference between value and virtue here? All of you value honesty. I mean, that is something that I can assume that all of you value honesty, all of you prefer honesty, but does it mean that all of you are honest person? Not necessarily. So basically, to make a value part of your character, you need to do it consistently, and then only that value will become part of your character, and then only you can call it a virtue or characteristic trait. That is what you need to understand, and this is the debate that we highlighted when we were discussing ethics in public relation and ethics in private relation. We cannot call an individual that he is respecting women if he is, promoting Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao or implementing Domestic Violence Act in the public life, being a DGP or the IPS officer. But in private life, that person is beating beating his own wife. So we cannot call that person gender neutral or someone who is respecting women, because for that person to be called, someone who respects women, that person has to display that character consistently across his public and private life. Have you understood this part? It is the same thing as that for you to be called a disciplined person, you need to be a disciplined person, on a day-by-day basis. You cannot become a disciplined person just by working hard towards the end of the examination. That now only 15 days are remaining for the examination and now I will work hard. Then you will not be called a disciplined, hard-working student. For you to be called a disciplined and hard-working student, it is important that you work hard on a consistent basis. And that is what we discussed in the first class. We are what we repeatedly do. Understood or not? That perspective comes from here only. This can be part of your quotation that can be asked by UPSC. We are what we repeatedly do. So what we repeatedly do, it become part of our character. So if we are doing something bad, then it will be vices, basically negative characteristic trait. If we are doing something good, then it will be positive characteristic, and that will be virtue only. Understood or not? So that is why we are what we repeatedly do, and therefore excellence is not an episodic act. It is the result of habitual action. In whatever you are doing, if you want to be an excellent in something, you have to do that consistently on a daily basis. Then only you can claim to be excellent in something. You will not be excellent, one fine day and you woke up, you are writing fantastic answer in ethics. That will not happen miraculously. That one fine day you just happen to write, civil services mains one day and you are writing brilliant answer out of blue. That will not happen. So this is what the statement is saying. We are what we repeatedly do, and that is why excellence is the result of consistent habit and not an episodic phenomenon. So now you understand what is the perspective of virtue ethics. The perspective of virtue ethics is to make us a virtuous person, someone who is having positive characteristic trait. And when we are having positive characteristic trait, then we will be displaying that behavior over a period of time rather than displaying that behavior episodically. Understood or not? So here focus is on becoming the right person rather than deciding the ethicality of a human action based on the either consequences of that action or based on the duty. No, we are talking about the individual, what kind of individual it will make you. And in doing so, we can emulate someone that is a virtuous person that we would like to emulate, that is our role model. And doing so, we also hope that we will also become the man of that character, that we are following. Understood or not? So that is the whole perspective of virtue ethics. But when we do that, when we want to follow positive characteristic trait, the one aspect is that ये डाउट अब बाद में पूछ लेना. अब मैंने पूछा तो कहा था आपको, जब डाउट एंड आई वाज आस्किंग यू दैट इज देयर एनी डाउट, है ना, जब पूछते नहीं हो अभी बीच में मत इसको क्लोज कर दीजिए आप चैट को. कहाँ थे हम? यस, सो वी वांट टू बिकम ए virtuous person. But to become virtuous person, one thing that is important is that we should know what is right and what is wrong. And that is the common trait of all these Greek thinkers, who propounded virtue ethics. You talk about Socrates, you talk about Plato, you talk about Aristotle. All these people have one common thread, and that was that we should not remain ignorant, because as I discussed in my yesterday's class, that in those times the Greek society was suffering from lot of ignorance, and because of religious orthodoxy and everything, lot of inhuman things were justified in the name of religion. Just like in our society in the 19th century, sati pratha, untouchability was justified in the name of religion, because we were ignorant. We were ignorant and we mistakenly believed that all these evils are sanctioned by Vedas only. So that was our ignorance. So the fundamental assumption of this school of thought is that it is ignorance which breeds so many evils, and if you strive for knowledge, then automatically you will do the good thing and you will become a virtuous person. So that is why across all these thinkers, the knowledge, pursuit of knowledge is very, very important. And for that, towards that end, Socrates gave his dialectic method. In that dialectic method, all these Greek thinkers again have this one thing common, that they promote scientific questioning, they promote rationality, they promote critical thinking. And to do that, he propounded his own dialectic method, in which we come up with a thesis and then we try, to find some antithesis to that, so that we can see the contradiction that was there in the thesis. And we discuss in the context of growth. If we are talking about that we should pursue high GDP growth, then the one group of person will rise and they will say that we are opposed to that because it will have environmental cost. Then the first person and second group, they will come at a synthesis. No, we will do the EIA, and case by case basis we will decide whether we should go ahead with that project or not. Understood or not? And then some other person will say, no, still there is some contradiction remaining. Basically, what about inclusiveness? What about distributive justice? Then we will discuss, okay, we will take care of that also, blah, blah, blah. So basically, if there was no antithesis, there will not be any synthesis. If there was no antithesis, there will never be the refinement of ideas in the first place. And that is why, the essay topic, as the thinking is like a game, it does not begin unless there is an opposition. Because opposition helps you in introspection, opposition helps you in finding flaws in your thinking, opposition helps you in making the assumption and conviction more stronger and superior. That was then earlier. So that is what is common. That is what Socrates talk about in his dialectic method. That he says that we have to pursue knowledge, and these are some of the common strands of thought that are there with respect to Socrates. And one of the very, very important argument that he gave is that unexamined life is not worth living. And this is the question that has been asked by UPSC directly in the quotation form. This can be asked in your essay as well. So listen to me very carefully. This discussion is important. Now, when he says the unexamined life is not worth living, he's talking about in that era, because people were mindlessly following the religious orthodoxy. They were mindlessly following the churches. They were not questioning their belief pattern, that why you are saying what you are saying. They were not questioning that. Just like we were not questioning whether sati pratha is even sanctioned by Vedas, whether untouchability is sanctioned by Vedas. Just like we were not questioning, the people in that time were also not questioning the prevalent belief in the society. And that is why he said that unexamined life is not worth living. You have to examine your life. And when you say you have to examine your life, you have to examine the prevailing thought pattern. And also, this statement reflects on the human existence per se, that what is the purpose of your life? Why exactly you are here, and how you can make the life fulfilling. Across all these Greek thinkers, another thing that is common is that, all of them are striving for eudaimonia. That is basically human flourishing. That you want to achieve the potential. That you are simply not merely existing in the world just like animals are existing. The human life is a bit different, and for that you have to examine your life. Just like Ashoka examined his life after Kalinga war, just like Prince Siddhartha examined his life after, after seeing all these 3-4 things. Just like, Valmiki Rishi, the dacoit that he was, he examined his life. So basically, when people examine their life, it gives them an opportunity to understand what they are. Just like Gandhiji examined his life after being thrown out of the train by the whites, despite having a valid ticket. So basically, unexamined life is not worth living, because without examining, you will not get the true knowledge or the real meaning why you are existing in the first place. What is the purpose in your life, or why exactly you are here? So we give all these examples to make people understand that human potential is immense, and a life, in which you are not moving towards fulfilling your human potential is a wasted life. It is not even worth living. That is what he's saying, because otherwise you are simply existing like animals. Understood or not? So unexamined life is not worth living. Now, suppose this question come in the context of quotations, then of course you will talk about not just human perspective. You can talk about organizations also. Any organization which is not examining itself, it will also not survive. We will discuss that more in the context of corporate governance. But at organizational level also, they must also examine themselves. They must also audit themselves, and that is why the role of internal as well as external audit is very, very important. Until they examine themselves, they will never understand that what are the risks that are there, how well they are managing their risk. I will give you the example of banks. The banks make profit when they give loans. Yes or no? Because that is asset, that is an asset to them. But can they indulge in reckless lending? Because will that always maximize their profit? No. Because that reckless lending may actually become, that asset may actually become non-performing asset, because people, they may not have the capability to give you the money back. So that is why if you audit yourself properly, you will understand that perhaps you need certain mechanism, and that mechanism will ensure that when you are doing the lending, that there are certain checks and balances that you have to maintain. You have to check the credit worthiness of the individual before you actually lend. And that will not be possible until unless you examine your organization. So that organization will also not survive. The nations which do not believe in critical thinking, the societies which are autocratic in nature, those societies will also not survive, because they will be, they will decay. They will decay with time. They will not evolve with time. They will not have any scientific development. The argument that we gave in the context of absolutism. In the absolute society, there is no role for tolerance. And that is why the society will not prosper. So basically, that society will also not survive. So that is an extension of argument in the context of answer writing I just told you. But from the perspective of Socrates, he is mostly dealing with humans. That humans, they should examine their life. If you are not examining your life, you are merely existing, and that life is not worth living, because ultimately you are not living the human life, you are living an animal life. And when he questioned the prevalent belief pattern of the society, he was punished. He was punished. And when he was punished, he was punished that he should drink a cup of poison. Few days before that punishment, his disciple came, met him, and said, "We can make you escape from this place." And he refused. He refused because he believed that if he somehow escaped from that place, that will be like that he is not standing for what he said. And that is a true example of integrity, that even when no one asked him, even when there was adversity, even when he was facing death, then also, he stood for what he said. So great example of integrity and courage, fortitude. Fortitude is courage in adversity. That Socrates, he did not run away even when his disciple came and offered him to do so. So unexamined life is not worth living. That is what you need to understand. And this concept, it is very, very important, because you talk about emotional intelligence, you talk about any of the ethical action. You talk about people who are always drunk, you talk about people who are driven by desires all the time. To all such people, this argument will always apply. The examination of life, you can relate this concept to the emotional intelligence as well, because there also you are examining. The first step of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. That you are examining yourself, you are examining your strengths and weaknesses. Until and unless you know yourself, how will you improve? How will you manage your emotions? So this concept you can talk in the context of emotional intelligence as well, that yes, that how self-examination is very, very important for the perspective of improvement. Understood or not? And then the virtue is knowledge. The knowledge was regarded as a virtue, that it is a positive characteristic trait. So much so that he believed that knowledge and virtue were inseparable. And the assumption was, if one truly understood what was good and just, they would naturally act accordingly. And that is why immoral actions stem from the ignorance and lack of understanding. And that is why this line, the only good that is there is knowledge and the only vice that is there is ignorance. That is the line, the essay topic that is there. That because of ignorance, so many wrong things happen. You talk about communal rights, you talk about hatred, you talk about prejudices. All these actions are there because all of us are having ignorance. The racism is founded on the basis of ignorance only, because medically speaking or scientifically speaking, 99.99% genes are same only across all the humans being. Then what is the basis of racism? Because those people, the white people believed that they are intellectually superior, but the capacity of the brain and everything is same across all the human being. So scientifically speaking, the racism simply does not stand ground. The racism is the result of ignorance only. Communalism, again, whenever there is a communalism, there is hatred between the two communities. That is also because of ignorance only. So the ignorance can lead to so many vices. Communalism is an example of, likh lo bhaiya, communalism and everything. These example you will use. That how ignorance have been used by politicians to divide and rule. And that is why he says that importance of dialogue and questioning is very, very important. And this particular element of his teaching is very much evident in his Socratic method of teaching or also dialectic method. Yes, and that is why he says that everyone should pursue truth and wisdom. And he also fundamentally believe that, that happiness, true happiness will come when you live a life that is right for your soul rather than simply pursuing pleasure. The life which is right for your soul is basically the life, that is governed by reason or that is governed by knowledge, pursuit of knowledge. Then only, you will have human flourishing or basically the realization of your potential. That is what he is saying. And ultimately he said that, he proposed that there is a unity of the virtues. Either you will have all the virtues or you will have none. That is what he believed in. We'll discuss this concept in the next slide. So that is what he believed in, that if you have one virtue, you will have all other virtues as well. For example, suppose there is a judge. The judge believes in justice. Yes, he believes in fairness. But then that judge, he also has to have temperance as a virtue. Temperance means sanyam, restraint. He cannot allow himself to be carried away by emotions, and also he cannot become apathetic. He must exercise temperance when he is delivering judgment. He cannot be carried away that, someone has committed heinous crime against a woman, for example, that there should be death penalty only. The judge has to exercise temperance, another cardinal virtue that is there, and by temperance, he will actually see what are the prevailing circumstances that made them, that made that person act and behave in a way that he behaved. Have you heard of the term mitigating circumstances? Yes, mitigating. Whenever judges, they pronounce death penalty, they look at the mitigating circumstances also. That what were the circumstances that actually led to this behavior? And were there factors that were outside the control of the person, and because of that the person behaved in that fashion, and that actually lead to decrease of the chances of death penalty. It provides sort of support to that person that why he behaved the way he behaved. Understood? So all these Greek thinkers, all of them agree that there are 4 cardinal virtues. When we talk about cardinal virtues, there are lot many virtues, but there are 4 cardinal virtues. Of all the people, they should believe in these 4 cardinal virtues. That is what these virtue thing, all these Greek thinkers, they believe. What are those cardinal virtues? These questions, all these values can come independently also in the context of terms. Usually UPSC give you 3 to 4 terms in a 10-marker question and ask you to write a short note on it. So these terms can come there also. So prudence. Prudence is one of the important virtue that is there. Prudence. What do we mean by prudence? The prudence, the key word is sound judgment. Prudence is mostly about making sound decision. Prudence is mostly about sound decision making. That you are making sound judgment. This value, basically, this particular trait asks you to consider so many variables when you are making the judgment. It asks you to be wise, that you are making ultimate, decision making by wisdom. That is what it asks you. So in the context of, let us discuss the case of PDS officer. In the case of PDS officer, the lady comes and she is not having the ration, and she is not having the ration, and she has come for the ration, and she is not having the eligibility criteria fulfilled. Now, can that officer, violate the law and give the ration to that lady? No, of course he cannot do that. Yes, because that will be illegal. That will be illegal. Understood or not? So that will be illegal. So his action has to be legal. That is the bare minimum he has to do. His action has to be legal. So he decides that he will not tinker with the PDS ration. No, he will not tinker with because that lady is not meeting the eligibility criteria. But can he turn her away? Because that will be legal but unethical. Because it will be devoid of compassion. It will be devoid of compassion. So, out of compassion, suppose he decide that he will give the ration from his own pocket. Then, is this action legal? Yes, it is legal. Who has who has barred any public servant from helping from individual pocket? Anyone can do that. In his personal capacity, he can always help. So, that action is legal. Is it ethical? Yes, it is ethical. It is compassion. It is driven by compassion. He is helping the lady. So yes, it is legal as well as it is ethical. But is it effective? It is not effective, because to how many such ladies that person can help? And that is why this particular decision is not effective. So the prudent decision would be that will be legal, ethical as well as effective. What will be that decision? We will discuss in the case study. But that decision will demand that whatever you are doing, it should be legal, ethical as well as effective. So that is what prudence is all about. Prudence is basically making sound judgment when you are considering so many variables. Because in government, you see, all of you know preamble, yes? So in preamble, lot many values are there. Equality, justice, liberty, and so many other values are there. So one of the important problem, that government faces is that there is often dilemma. Because often, at times, all these cherished values come in conflict with each other. Yes or no? In a way, if you are talking about social justice, then you would want to promote, let's say, reservation. But in a way, it is positive discrimination. You are still discriminating against some people. So in government, when you are actually acting at, there can be the development of the environment, the classical case that is there. There can be dilemma between various values. If you are dealing with farmers as well as company, there can be dilemma between what your policy is going to be. Understood or not? And that is why the government has to take prudent decision after considering all that is available to the government. Understood or not? And that is why, government took the prudent decision of lockdown, because it was not ready for catastrophe that was awaiting India if we had not enforced lockdown. Because we did not know anything about this virus. Our healthcare infrastructure was not ready. So we took the prudent decision after considering everything, that yes, we have to save life, and of course there will be some blow to the economy, but we will take it because we have to save life also and everything. Understood or not? So after considering everything, government took the prudent decision. So prudent decision is basically making the sound judgment after considering everything. So basically, in your case study, whenever you take final course of action, that decision should be prudent only. In the case of illegal sand mafia, the case study, that I gave you, that the mafia is threatening your family and everything, then of course you will not run away from your duty. You will continue to do your duty. At the same time, you will seek security for your family members also. Then that will be the prudent decision, because A, you are doing your duty, you are acting as a sand mafia, and B, you are protecting your family as well. So basically, you are taking that decision after considering everything that is there. So a prudent decision is that you are taking decision after considering everything, a decision based on wisdom. Understood or not? And that is why this is one of the very, very important virtue that is there, prudence. So in every course of action, whatever case study you are solving, the final course of action is basically prudent only. Whenever the whistleblower takes the final call, that decision is prudent. I'm talking about the whistleblowers who are doing the whistleblowing for the right cause, not for who are seeking publicity. So that is prudent decision, because that person is balancing so many interests, including potential harm to that person. He may be killed also for whistleblowing, but he's balancing that. There will be bad name to that organization. There may be the violation of legal contract that is there. Still, he's going ahead with the whistleblowing. So he's making that judgment. He's making that prudent judgment even after considering everything, because that is the basis of wisdom, and that is the call of reason. That for the greater good, that is what needs to be done. So prudence is always associated with sound judgment. Understood or not? Understood or not? And justice, we will discuss that today in the context of John Rawls. It is about that you are being fair to everyone. Then fortitude, we will discuss later. Fortitude, as I discussed, it is courage, showing courage in adversity. That you are showing courage in adversity. That is fortitude for you. Showing courage in adversity. You give the example of soldiers who are guarding the border in adverse conditions. You give the example of firefighters, Tokaram Kamble in the Contact 2611. All these examples are showing courage in adversity. Fortitude. And then temperance. This you can relate with EI also, that it is basically moderation or voluntary self-restraint. Basically, in Hindi, temperance means sanyam. That you are restraining yourself, you are not driven by the emotions. You are avoiding the self-indulgence and thinking of human life in terms of greater human good. Self-indulgence means only thinking from your own individual pleasure only. And that you are thinking the human life in greater term. Basically, you are examining your life. You are not driven by, the self-indulgence only. Basically, if you are always drinking, then you are self-indulging yourself. You are not examining your life. You are not exercising temperance. You are not exercising restraint. Understood? So basically, all these four virtues are very, very important. All these four virtues are very, very important. The virtues of prudence, virtues of justice, virtues of fortitude and temperance. Understood? And this is what they said, all these virtues are cardinal virtues. And Socrates believed that if you have any one particular virtue, let's say you are having justice, then you will have them all. That is what he believed. He believed in unity of virtues. Suppose you cannot be just, for example, without exercising temperance. If you are driven by emotions, like you are seething with anger, someone has committed a crime, he has committed a rape, and you are just like, usko maar do bas, without even looking at his perspective, without even giving an opportunity to be heard and everything. So basically, temperance has to be there if you have to truly deliver justice. Understood or not? Prudence has to be there. The justice, the judges, they face threats all the time at times. Yes, threats from the mafia and everything. So for them to deliver, sound judgment or true justice, they have to exercise fortitude also. Courage in adversity. So basically, that is what Socrates believed, that if you have one virtue, you will have them all. It will be difficult for you to, it is difficult for you to be having one virtue and not having other virtues. I just give you the example, and in this context he says that if you are not having fortitude, temperance, other virtues, then you will not be having justice also, because you will be easily threatened. If you are not having fortitude, you will easily threatened by the mafia. And how will you deliver justice? How will you deliver judgment against that mafia? Because you will be easily threatened. Understood or not? And that is why the central idea of this aspect is that it is lifelong pursuit. That virtues, it is not asking you that you take decision and you forget it. You have to practice that consistently, till it become part of your character. So one central idea is that it is lifelong pursuit. Importance of role modeling, because we follow what virtuous people will do. Role modeling. And then character is holistic. We cannot distinguish between private life and public life. Character is basically holistic. If you want to be an honest person, you need to exercise honesty both in your public life and your private life. If you want to be brave and disciplined person, then you have to be brave and disciplined both in public life and private life. Understood or not? So these are very, very important aspects, because here the question can come. Because in usually case study, what you will see, the case study will give you certain things like, the boss will say, suppose you have noticed some wrongdoing, the boss will say, let it go this time because you will be rewarded suitably, and it is very small, minor issue, you can overlook, and so forth. So basically, or the argument can be that, small gift can be acceptable, larger bribe, they are harmful, but a small gift, they keep individuals motivated. These are the arguments that are often given. So the against argument is this only, that it is not about small or larger bribe. A bribe is a bribe. Because the character is holistic. That is what you need to argue. That is how you need to integrate this thinker in your argument when you are writing the case study. That if you are overlooking this, whatever, suppose you are an executive engineer, the case study has come very often in the UPSC. Suppose you are an executive engineer, you are overlooking a bridge, the infrastructure is there, and you are overlooking, and there are cracks that are there. And you believe that those cracks are not minor cracks, they can potentially harm the safety of the bridge. And you bring that to the notice of your superior, and your superior says that no, it is a very minor crack and you have to let it go because this bridge is supposed to be inaugurated by the minister in the coming month, and this bridge is very much critical for the perspective of elections that are there, and you will be suitably rewarded. So if you overlook that, then you are not being professional, because for you to be professional, you have to follow your professional expertise, and your professional expertise is telling you that that crack is not minor. And that is what you need to write. That for that engineer to be truly following engineering ethics or the professional ethics, he should not, let go of this observation. Understood or not? So that is how this is very much useful when you are writing in your case studies. समझ में आ रहा है आप लोगों को? The application part is very, very important. Seldom UPSC will ask you that question. But this is what we need to argue, and that is why, whenever you are writing answers on ethics in public and private relationship, always invoke virtue ethics. That there cannot be, a lot of separation between public and private life, because character is character. And that is what we have been taught by virtue ethics, ethicists like, Socrates. That we are what we repeatedly do. Understood? Understood? So let us now talk about, a student of Socrates, Plato. Naturally, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, all these three people, they were disciple. Yes? Plato was disciple of Socrates and Aristotle was disciple of Plato. Yes? So that chain was there. And because of that, lot of commonality is there in their thinking. That commonality we already know. That knowledge, rational thinking, critical thinking, knowledge, virtue ethics, consistent character development, everything. Yes, that we already know. But these thinkers have said certain other important concept also. These thinkers have said certain other important concept also. Now let us try to have a look at them. All of you know about allegory of cave? Yes? All of you know about it? So what is this allegory of cave? Let me explain it. It is the illustration by Plato, in which it is saying, he's saying that people are chained. People are trapped in a cave, and they are chained. They are chained in the cave in such a way that they can only look at the front wall. They cannot look at the back side. That is how they are chained, in a particular cave. And behind them, a fire is there, and it is casting some shadow on the wall. But they are not able to see the fire because it is behind them, and they are chained in such a fashion that they are only looking at this wall only, which is in front of them. Understood? Understood? And all these people contemplate that they are certain figures. All these shadows, they contemplate that this is what perhaps lion is, this is what perhaps this figure is. And they are contemplating that perhaps this is there, this is there, this is there. And no one truly knows that all these forms are basically imaginary forms. They are not real because they are actually a shadow because of this fire that is behind them. But they are not able to see the fire behind them. And one person, somehow he accidentally escaped from this cave. And then he realizes that what they were believing to be real, the different forms, are actually nothing but shadows because of fire besides them. So can you see the importance of knowledge, that because they were ignorant, because they were not truly knowing the things, they were contemplating things in a way that were actually far, far from reality. So allegory of cave, you need not explain the entire thing, just write this word in the actual examination, because a famous illustration that is there, that in the allegory of cave, Plato, explained the role of knowledge. Plato explained the importance of reason, that you have to reason thing, you have to question thing. And when that person, who got out from the cave, when he questioned that experience, then only they got to know the true reality. Until then, they were not aware of the true reality, that all these forms are not actually real. They are actually imaginary forms that are there. Understood? So that is what we need to remember. Allegory of cave from Plato illustrates the importance of reasoning, importance of knowledge, and how ignorance can make you believe in the wrong things or in the imaginary things. How evil ignorance can be. The allegory of cave is a very beautiful depiction. You can use them. You can use it in the essay introduction as well, if you want, or you can simply write, for example, allegory of cave and Plato. Plato's allegory of cave. That is what you can write, and that is self-understood. You need not explain it any further when you are emphasizing the importance of reasoning and knowledge. Understood or not? Understood? Another important part is, I will discuss that how all these people are, they believe in reason governing the desires and emotions, that is we have discussed. Another important concept that was propounded by Plato was the philosopher king. Now, who is a philosopher king? As per Plato, the philosopher king, an ideal state, an ideal state should be ruled by the philosopher kings. Who are philosopher kings? They are the individuals who are possessing wisdom and virtues. Basically, they are people with sound character. They are having knowledge. They are the virtuous people. So basically, now the question is this concept relevant in today's time? Yes, it is very much relevant, because our bureaucrats, our political executive, when they are ruling us, they should also be like Plato's philosopher king. That is what you need to write. In your syllabus, one term is there, philosophical basis of probity and governance. So that is the philosophical basis of governance. How should rulers run, or what kind of ruler should be there when they are running the country or administration? They should be like philosopher king of the Plato, basically the man of integrity, the man of knowledge, virtue. Understood or not? So our bureaucrats and everyone, they should be men of sound character. So philosopher king is a very, very important concept that you will use in your answer when you are writing answer on civil services ethics, when you are writing answer on administrative ethics. That bureaucrats, apart from having intellectual ability, they should also behave like philosopher king, having virtues like selflessness, integrity, all the foundational values that we have understood. So the philosopher king as a term you should use in your answer whenever you are discussing bureaucratic morality, whenever you are discussing what is the expected ethical standards of public servant, because public servant, they are ruling us. In a way, they are executive, and that is why philosopher king is very, very important, and it teaches us that there has to be some qualification, moral qualification for people to rule. It is not just about academic qualification or intellectual qualification. He's talking about moral qualification. So when you hear the term, I think we have discussed that there is no place of principle in politics. We have discussed that? नहीं किया discuss. अच्छा ठीक है आगे करेंगे ethics in IR में कर लेंगे. So when we often hear the term, there is no place of ethics in politics. There is no place for principle in politics, because politics is all about survival. So you need not follow ethics. That is the one school of thought that is there. No, Machiavellian, everyone believes in that. So basically, that is how you need to argue against them. That in politics, politics is about public interest. So when you are ruling, the people, you should behave like philosopher king. You should have moral qualities, and your objective should not just be to rule for the sake of power. Your objective, you should rule as if you are a virtuous person, a man of wisdom and virtue. Understood or not? I hope you will be able to apply this concept whenever you are writing your answer, that you have to behave like a philosopher king of Plato, a man of integrity. Understood? Now he gave another beautiful illustration of three parts of the souls that he talk about, that human soul is divided into three parts, the reason, spirit and appetite. And he says, of course, the reason has to be like charioteer, that he is guiding both emotions and appetite, spirit and appetite. The spirits are basically emotions, and the appetite is basically bodily desires. That reason should be able to control your emotions and desires that we have discussed so far. We have discussed already. In the context of governing emotions, that is nothing but emotional intelligence. That we should govern, we should govern our emotions. And when we are talking about governing our desires, we have already discussed, John Stuart Mill, that we should govern them because of sanctions and everything. Or in the context of Socrates, we should examine our life. We should not be governed by our bodily desires all the time. So the reason has to be like charioteer. He's governing both these horses. These horses are emotions and bodily desires, spirit and appetite, bodily desires. So our bodily desires and emotions should be controlled by reason. So now you understand all these thinkers, they focused a lot on reason, rationality, that you have to question things. You cannot be just governed by desires and emotions all the time. Understood? And that is what you can write whenever you are writing the answer in the context of emotional intelligence, or whenever someone is driven by desires. Anger and intolerance are enemy of correct understanding. The quotation was there. Anger and intolerance are enemy of correct understanding. So when anger is there, then basically you are driven by emotions only, and that's how you can talk about that, how the Plato talks about there should be harmonious balance where reason is able to govern the emotion. And when reason is able to govern the emotion, that is anger in this case, then only you will be able to arrive at the right knowledge. How else you will get the correct understanding? समझ में आ रहा है आपको? I am discussing the PYQ. ये PYQ है. The question is there that anger and intolerance are enemy of correct understanding, and I am applying this concept there. Apart from emotional intelligence, that is also you can use. That reason should be able to control your emotion for better understanding. Understood? So we have discussed the Plato, the important concept are allegory of cave, then this tripartite soul concept, and philosopher king. And we should use them very often. Socrates, the important concept are unexamined life is not worth living, and whatever we have discussed regarding knowledge, virtue and everything. Yes, that is common to all of them. I am just adding what these people have added. Now let us talk about his disciple, Aristotle, what he means. So for him, virtues are nothing but they are golden mean between two extremes. Virtues are nothing but golden mean between two extremes. So basically, if you are having courage, it means that it is a golden between lack of courage and lot of courage. If it is lack of courage, it is nothing but cowardice. Yes, we'll call that person a cowardice. Yes or no? We'll call that person a coward person. If he is lacking courage. But if it is too much of courage, then we'll call that person a reckless person. So courage is nothing but golden mean between cowardice and recklessness. How many of you have seen, often the videos are there, a drunk person, he will take a cobra and will try to, like this, he will try to kiss that cobra and everything. All this video, that's too much of courage comes actually after they drink that alcohol. Too much, they become too courageous. Too much of courage they get, so they become reckless. Understood? So courage is nothing but the golden mean between cowardice and recklessness. Understood? Similarly, respect. It should not be lack of respect for someone, that you are disregarding everyone all the time, that you do not have any regard. There has to be bare minimum respect towards each other, because all of us are human beings, all of us have inherent dignity. Yes, but if we are lacking that, then we are disregarding individuals. But if there is too much of respect, then it is like idolatry. Idolatry basically that you are worshipping anyone like God and you are not questioning his belief pattern, and that is a fundamental basis of virtue ethics. All the Greek thinkers, that you have to question the thing. Because when you make someone God, when you make human beings, an idol, when you worship them like idols, then you tend to overlook their flaws. And that is the very basic, or that is the very fundamental to virtue ethics. Understood? So idolatry should not be there. There should be golden mean between idolatry and disregard. That is respect. Understood or not? When Asaram Bapu, when he was convicted, many of his disciples, they staged protest and they said the government is framing him. That's how in disbelief that they were, that our government cannot do such things. So they were believing in idolatry. They were not able to look at the downside of it. So that is why all of us should have our eyes and ear open. We should not believe in idolatry. किसी के भक्त नहीं बनना है, I think. Yes, it is very much important. So there has to be golden mean between excess or deficiency of anything. That is what golden mean is all about. Then love. It should not be the case that you are devoid of love, because true love will always ask you that you commit some sacrifice. That is the essence of love. When our parents love us, they also commit so many sacrifices. They think beyond themselves when they are raising us. Yes or no? They think about our ambition, our careers, our dreams, and they put their own self-interest, at the backside, because they indulge in sacrifice. Any sort of love between husband and wife, you talk about any love that is there, the true test of love is that only whether you are able to sacrifice your self-interest or not. So if you lack love, you will be selfish only, because you cannot think beyond yourself. You cannot sacrifice anything. Understood or not? So, and of course, there should not be too much love that it become enablement. Just like, who was that person? Dhritarashtra, yes. Just like Dhritarashtra, that he was in too much of love. Moho, enablement is moho. That you are in moho of someone, you are having too much of love or enablement towards someone, that you are again not able to see the wrong side of that person. So love is the golden mean between deficiency and the excess, enablement and selfishness. Then diligence. It should not be the case that we are lazy. The lack of diligence is basically being lazy, that we do not believe in anything. It is like, "Arey bhai, chal raha hai." We are just simply existing in this world. Why we should care? Jo Ishwar ne likh diya hai, whatever God has written for us, that will happen, automatically it will happen. If destiny is there for us to become civil servant, then we will become civil servant by all hooks and crooks. Government of India will come and appoint you IAS directly because it is there in your destiny. And if it is not there in your destiny, then what is the point of studying? Yes. So these people, they are lazy. When they lack diligence, then they behave like, lazy person. But too much of diligence, it can lead to workaholism. Alcoholism, you understand? It is different, it is workaholism. That you are too much workaholic, you are too much devoted to work all the time, and it can create, of course, the negative side. Mental health crisis and everything, family life can be strained, relationship can be strained and everything. So diligence is basically the golden mean between the deficiency and the excess. Both are vices, both are the negative character trait. And ambition, too much of ambition can lead to greed. You talk about ambition for power, the politicians and everyone, when they have this ambition of power, you imagine what they can do. Yes, for power, hate politics, they can indulge in hate politics, they can, orchestrate the communal riots, and, they can divide people on the basis of caste and everything because they want to get power at all cost. And they can be creative with respect to anti-defection law also, money will also. So basically, that is what, power make them drunk. Yes, they are not able to see through things. So if you are too much of ambitious, this ambition can be with respect to power also, it can be with respect to money also. That you want to earn money by hook and crook. So that greed will make you a corrupt person ultimately. That will make you a corrupt person, because you want the ambition, if you are having too much, if you are too much ambitious person, then it will make you a corrupt person with respect to money. And the deficiency of that is like sloth, that there is no ambition to begin with. Understood? So the Aristotle golden mean basically tells us that virtues are nothing but golden mean between two extremes. Golden mean between two extremes, and both these extremes are vices only. Understood? But the question that will come to you is that what do you understand by golden mean of Aristotle, and is it relevant today? Do you find the concept of golden mean relevant today in today's context? So here, if you are talking about the relevance of golden mean in today's context, you have to talk about not just from the theoretical perspective of what he has proposed, but also how relevant his concept is in our day-to-day life. You talk about how we have to maintain balance between work and life at individual level. Yes, because otherwise there can be strain on mental health and relationship, everything. How it is important to balance between materialism and spiritualism. There has to be golden mean between spiritualism and materialism. Then you talk about at the level of, let's say, judiciary. Then judiciary, it should also exercise extreme self-restraint and the golden mean between apathy and excessive judicial activism. It should not be the case that it is not taking suo motu cognizance in any of the case, it is becoming apathetic, and it should also not be the case that because of over ambitious nature and everything, it is poking its nose in the domain of legislature and executive. So that is how judicial restraint, that is how it is, the golden mean is very much necessary in the context of judiciary. You talk about bureaucracy. Yes, of course they should follow rules. But at the same time, they should follow accountability. At the same time, they should balance it by the need for efficiency. Because if you follow rules too mechanically, then it can, make system slow. Efficiency can be slow because red tapeism will be there. Because, understood? This part understood? So at bureaucratic level, yes, there has to be balance between the golden mean that has to be there between this. At international level, you can discuss that how golden mean is necessary between respecting a country's right to govern itself, basically respecting country's sovereignty, respecting cultural relativism versus obvious moral wrongs like genocide, obvious violation of human rights, because not every violation of human right or like genocide, all these actions can be justified in the name of cultural relativism or sovereignty. That a country will say that since we are sovereign, no, so not any other country cannot question us that what we are doing inside our boundary. So they cannot justify this, that we are subjugating women in the name of religion and everything. You cannot question this because this is our internal affair. So that the balance should be there. The golden mean is basically the balance between them, that how much we should interfere. Whether we should interfere to the extent we are not respecting their culture, we are not respecting their sovereignty, we are imposing our will, or we should become so apathetic that we are ignoring the obvious moral wrongs that are there, obvious human rights violations that are there. So now can you understand the application of golden mean, in today's context? So the question comes to you that what do you understand by golden mean of Aristotle, and do you think it is relevant in today's time? That is what you need to talk about. In your answer has to vary from at individual level to organizational level, at international level, and from different contexts you have to justify that yes, golden mean is very much relevant and it is much like Madhyam Marg of Buddhism. Understood or not? So that is how you need to write, an answer that have lot of depth. Understood or not? So let us discuss, another strands of Aristotle, then of course all these Greek thinkers, they believe that eudaimonia, it is the ultimate goal. And that is nothing but living well, that you have lived well enough. Basically, you have lived well enough, it means that you have realized your potential. You are not merely existing on the earth just like everyone else, just like animals are existing. You have lived well. That is the purpose of human life, and you can only live well through the life of reasoning, when you are pursuing knowledge, when you are questioning things. That is the fundamental basis that we have already discussed. Understood? Golden mean we have discussed, virtue ethics we have discussed, and then moral education habit, that we have already discussed. The virtues are innate but acquired through practice and habit. Through consistent practice we acquire them and we make them part of our character. Initially they may be values, we may prefer them, but when we practice them consistently, they become part of our character. They become characteristic trait. And that is why moral education and role modeling is very, very important in the context of shaping of virtuous character. Understood? And another very important concept he gave is that a friendship, that friendship, many times people indulge in friendship because they want to derive some utility from it. They want to derive some benefit from themselves from it. So he says that friendship that is based on that, it is not the good friendship. No, friendship has to be there on the basis of mutual self-respect. So that is what he has given, and the importance of reason, I think this is already common thread across all the Greek thinkers. Understood or not? Understood? So all of you have understood what all these virtue ethics thinker or the Greek thinker had to say about? All of you know the common thread that is their rationality, critical thinking, role of reason, governing your emotions, governing your appetite, governing your bodily desires. The fundamental aim of human life is, human flourishing, basically, that you have lived well enough, that you have lived the human life fully, that you have realized your potential. Understood or not? Then there are certain important concepts which are unique to each of these thinkers, where, you talk about dialectic method in the context of Socrates, unity of all virtues in the context of Socrates. In the Plato's case, you talk about allegory of cave, philosopher king, and tripartite soul, that how reason should govern bodily desires and passions. Understood or not? In the same way, we know that what Aristotle is saying, we talk about golden mean here. Understood or not? So this is what virtue ethics is all about, and since we have discussed in so much of depth already, I'm sure now that you will apply all these thinkers when you are writing answer as well as case studies. Understood? So now you please note, and those who have doubt, you can ask your doubt in the chat box. Chat box open kar dijiye. Prudence can be linked to rule utilitarianism. No, Riya, Prudence is basically you are taking cognizance of the rule, utilitarianism also, perhaps deontology also, perhaps any other thinker also. Prudence is the fundamental way you are finally making the decision after considering everything that is there. Suppose you are going to buy a car, then you are going to buy a car, then in a particular car you might like the looks. Another car is giving, let's say, better fuel economy. Another car is within your budget. And then fundamentally you decide on a particular car that satisfied more or less, your various consideration. So basically that decision that you make fundamentally after considering everything, that is a prudent decision. So we cannot always say that we took the decision on the basis of, let's say, for this reason, for fuel economy we took that decision. Someone might take decision on the basis of, let's say, looks, because for that person looks are important. Which is not always, altruism is not always extreme. I give you an example in which it was extreme, that in which you have to sacrifice your own self-interest, but at times that may be necessary. You talk about soldiers who are laying down their life. It is altruism also, and it is performing duty also. They cannot run away. And from deontological perspective also we will justify that in that regard only, that soldiers running from their post, we cannot make it a universal law that if suppose their post is attacked, then they will run away. So basically that action is as per duty also, that action is as per utilitarian perspective also, that overall it is leading to security only even if one individual is sacrificed, and overall it will make you coward also if you are running away. So basically, the human action, it is very much complex and it can fulfill so many things. Understood, Vishesh? Women are not reporting domestic abuse. Can we call this enablement? They may not be reporting because of enablement, because they love their husband so much, or because they are fearful of them. So we don't know. Yes, golden mean is again, this is a very good example, balancing between economic development and environmental conservation. Just golden mean is useful here also. That's a very good example. The base desire and appetite, I think we have already discussed. Bodily desires and emotions. Sir, Aristotle's theory is much like theory of utilitarianism. No, definitely not. I have discussed, I have given you an example of sand mining and Urukurko. And there also I just discussed, Navneet, that when we are talking about virtue ethics, we are talking about person. We are not talking about the consequence of the human action. It may be the case that if you are brave, even then the result may be different. Can moral intellectualism be good or bad for making judgment? That's a very vague question, Nishchit. I don't know what you are asking. नीचे ले आइए, सुहानी का डाउट देख लेते. Please tell again that if not following profession ethics, then how is it affecting virtue ethics, as in the case of engineer and bridge? Because see, if you are an executive engineer, then if you are called executive engineer, you are called executive engineer because it is believed that your actions with respect to engineering will be governed by engineering code of ethics or the engineering skills that you have learned. Yes, so if you are not following that how anyone can call you an engineer? Because in your professional judgment, if lapse is there, then you are supposed to tell that. I will give you an example. If suppose you go to a doctor, and you tell that I am suffering from this particular problem. My stomach is having a lot of pain here. And that doctor is not diagnosing. Is not diagnosing properly and is saying it's nothing. You go home. Then would you not question the credibility of the doctor that it is your job to diagnose that? Then how can I call you a doctor if you are not able to diagnose my problem? So basically, virtue ethics is that if you want yourself to be called a doctor, then you have to behave like a doctor. In this context, if you truly want to be called a true professional, then you have to be moral in what you are doing. I hope now I am clear. For case study, can we argue with content of multiple thinker? Yes, very much. That is what is required. When you are asked examine merits and demerits of any chosen course of action, how will you write the demerits? Demerits mean more than one demerit will be there. So you have to criticize from multiple perspectives. So definitely it is desired. And that is why we are, going through so many thinkers. नीचे ले आइए. What is the difference between trait and attitude? Attitude is mental predisposition. It may or may not result into behavior. Trait is observable, consistent, observable behavior. When it is manifested in your character, then only we can call it a characteristic trait. So your attitude, you have to follow your attitude consistently for that particular attitude to become part of your trait. So honesty may be your attitude, but you may not be an honest person yet. Okay? So for you to become an honest person, you may prefer honesty, but you may not be actually implementing honesty in your life. So you will not be called an honest person. For you to be called an honest person as a characteristic trait, you have to follow your attitude consistently. Understood, Shubhangi? I did not get your doubt, Khushi, aptitude or anything. सर जैसे कोई थ्योरी कुछ बोलती है फिर कोई थ्योरी कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट, तो इस केस में क्या करें, किस केस में क्या करें? ये तो हमेशा होगा, कुछ थ्योरी मेरिट में बोलेंगे, कुछ थ्योरी डिमेरिट में बोलेंगे, एंड दैट इज व्हाट यू नीड टू राइट इन योर एग्जामिनेशन. यस. यस, बेंथम वही बोलते हैं. बेंथम क्वालिटेटिव डिफरेंस नहीं करते हैं. Yes, prudence is basically your final judgment that you are taking decision. The keyword in the definition of prudence is sound judgment. So when you are having a sound judgment will always be there when you have considered all the thing. The government cannot say, oh, we forgot to think for that perspective. So that particular decision will not be called prudent decision. For example, if you are studying for prelims now, in the foundation batch, if you go, then all the people are studying for prelims only, as if there is no mains. So, suppose they qualify prelims, I hope they qualify prelims, then they cannot claim, oh, we did not know there is mains also. Okay, because that is not a prudent decision. Prudent decision means that you have to take decision considering all the things that are there. I will leave screen definitely. Yes, Buddha middle path. Yes, I just discussed. नीचे ले आइए. Plato's philosopher king. Philosopher king is nothing but a term that is given. Just like your mother will call you Raja Beta. It is like that, Raja Beta. तो Raja Beta का मतलब क्या है कि आपको अच्छा बेटा बनना है. Yes or no? तो अच्छा बेटा बनने का मतलब है ओबीडियंट बनो, मम्मी की बात मानो, मम्मी के हिसाब से चलो बेसिकली. So that is Raja Beta for your mother. Similarly, in the context of rulers, we are calling them philosopher king. So if the philosopher king, that what an ideal state should be governed by philosopher kings. So ideally, we should be governed by the people who are having moral qualities and wisdom. So that is the concept of philosopher king. They are Raja king for us basically. Raja. I don't know. So understood, Nitesh? That is a term that has been given. That ideally, these are the kind of people that should govern us. Understood? Communalism is a result of ignorance on the part of citizen or politician, or both? Definitely both. Fortitude can be the example of golden mean. Yes, fortitude is a courage in adversity. It is an application of courage only in the adversity. Raja beta mummy bolengi, what should girlfriend or wife tell us? That you tell me, Vikas, what does your whosoever is there in your life call you? Okay, done? Okay, अभी आप नोट कर लीजिए इसको. This part is done. Temperance is संयम. In Hindi it is called संयम, that you are exercising restraint. That is what temperance is all about. That you are controlling your emotions. That is what temperance is all about. Small form of corruption is good corruption. How can you justify? मैंने कब justify कर दिया? Context क्या है? मतलब context ये है कि लोग बोलते हैं कि it motivates people. वो ग्रीस की तरह काम करता है, कि अगर छोटा छोटा करप्शन होता रहेगा तो पीपल विल बी मोटिवेटेड। लोगों को ना आदत लग गई है एक्स्ट्रा मनी की, तो एक्स्ट्रा मनी आता रहेगा तो दे बिकम मोटिवेटेड। तो इट इज़ लाइक दैट, इट एक्ट्स लाइक इंसेंटिव, दैट इज द कॉन्टेक्स्ट। आई एम नॉट जस्टिफाइंग इट बिफोर यू आस्क, आई एम जस्ट एक्सप्लेनिंग बिकॉज यू आस्क द कॉन्टेक्स्ट। हाँ, AI, AI का बोला मैंने, EI, emotional intelligence, yes. You are thinking AI only. Oh, my bad. It is EI, emotional intelligence. Temperance means controlling your emotions. Yes. संयम, हिंदी समझिए, संयम। डन मुस्कान? Because certain situation can be more adverse than others, Shubhangi. That is how you can distinguish between courage and fortitude. Cardinal virtues are more or less common to all these Greek thinkers. That this is what they have agreed upon, that these are the cardinal virtues that are there in the people with sound character. Done? Aptitude and virtues are different thing altogether. Aptitude simply means whether you have potential or not. Virtues actually mean that you have that. So if you are calling you an honest person, then you are actually implementing honesty. So it is not just about moral aptitude, that you merely have a potential for that. So aptitude is basically the first step, that whether you have potential or not. Before cardinal वाला, भाई तुम क्या कर रहे थे? Done? This part also done? I am daring to add some modern thinkers. Okay, so can I do that?
So there is another interpretation of Algerian case where it states that how an outsider is coming and then informing the people who are inside the case.
But the fundamental message is same, that their perception of reality is governed by their ignorance. So
It states that how at times the outsider doesn't want to come because the people don't believe in what that person is showing.
actually the same person, who got out from the cave, when he come and tell that person, so they don't believe in that person. It is the same thing only, but that is not relevant for the discussion. That is why I did not stretch the discussion for that. Yes.
Philanthropy done for
क्या बोल? Philanthropy.
improving self-image. Will that be in altruism or egoism?
Altruism or?
Or egoism? Ethical altruism or ethical egoism?
The egoism only, na. The prime purpose is in ethics, intentions are very much important. For what purpose you are doing it? So if you are doing it essentially just to feel happy for yourself, then you are doing it for yourself. Others are deriving secondary benefit from your action.
So,
Suppose
altruism or egoism aligned, मतलब दोनों
they can be aligned, they cannot be aligned. But in ethical altruism, you may be required to sacrifice your self-interest. But in ethical egoism, you are required to protect your self-interest.
जैसे दानवीर कर्ण और firefighters का बात किए थे, ethical altruism.
Yes.
So in both cases, don't they also have some incentive in the sense firefighters get monetary compensation, whereas दानवीर कर्ण
What the name?
for the Kshatriya status. So like वही समझ नहीं पा रहा कि selfless action कहाँ हुई है.
अब ये तो बहुत डिफिकल्ट है ना डिसाइड करना कि जो दानवीर कर्ण ने वो सूर्य भगवान को दे दिया कवच कुंडल, तो प्राइम पर्पज क्या था। बट ये चीज़ तो बहुत क्लियर थी कि उसको पता था कि मैं तो मरने वाला हूँ इसके बाद। सो दैट एक्चुअली मेक इट ए, क्योंकि मरने से बड़ा चीज़ क्या होगा। I've already stressed on the content that you need to remember, in the context of application, and that is what is required from the perspective of examination. Okay, that is what you need to write when you are writing merits and demerits. Done? Which slide, Khushi? Which slide, Dinesh? Previous slide. Done? Tribal Panchsheel is a good example of golden mean. Tribal Panchsheel. That's how relevant it is that you are not assimilating tribals in your way of life. At the same time, you are not you're not keeping them isolated. So tribal Panchsheel is a very good example of relevance of golden mean. Not necessarily, Rajshri, we cannot say that. Altruism and egoism may align also, may not align also. Why are you, going into such nitty-gritties? It is not required. Done? So let us move to the next important thinker, and that is Max Weber. Okay, so some of the aspects we have already discussed with respect to Max Weber. Yes? Yes? भाई बोलो, ऐसा क्यों बोल रहे हो सर? पहली बार सुन रहे हैं. Yes, आपको याद हो गया? So, Bavarian bureaucracy, the context is very much clear. In which context Weber propounded its model of bureaucracy. Yes, the context was of nepotism, context was of emotions, making, emotions-driven decision making in the administration, and because of that, efficiency was suffering. Yes, so the fundamental objective of Weber was how the large organization will be governed. So he propounded his model of bureaucracy that is how the large organization should be governed. Their focus should be on ruthless implementation of rules and regulation and laws, and they should not have any sort of value. So what are the features of Bavarian bureaucracy? So formal selection method, nepotism will not do. There has to be formal selection method, merit-based recruitment should be there. So that is fundamental, that is there to Bavarian bureaucracy. Then there has to be hierarchy. There has to be hierarchy in the organization, because usually when kings were appointing all the people, then there will not be lot of hierarchy, because since anyone can identify himself or herself with the king, he will not hear to anyone other than king. That is what also happen in small organization. In small organization, usually there is no hierarchy. There is an owner and there is rest of the people. So even when they are working under one another, since they know the owner directly, they do not hear, what their superior is saying. So that leads to lot of conflict. Understood or not? समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा आपको बात? So that's why he proposed that there has to be hierarchy in the organization. That hierarchy will ensure that there is supervision, that the vertical division of labor will be there and there will be supervision. For example, is it possible for Prime Minister Modi to supervise the work of all the 700 district magistrates? It is not fundamentally possible. Suppose he wants to review if he wants to communicate to any district magistrate or something like that, then perhaps it will be easy for him to communicate to cabinet secretary. Cabinet secretary will find it much more easier to communicate with the chief secretary. Then chief secretary, will find it much more easier to supervise the work of divisional commissioner, the grouping of districts that are there. And that divisional commissioners, will supervise the work of 6 to 7 district collectors that are there. Understood or not? So it is easy for cabinet secretary to supervise, let's say 30 chief secretaries are there. So he is supervising over 30 chief secretary. A chief secretary is supervising over, let's say 7 to 8 or let's say 10 or 15 divisional commissioner, and each divisional commissioner is supervising over 4 to 5 district magistrate. So because of this hierarchy, they are able to supervise and ensure that accountability is there. And that is why in large organization, hierarchy is very much necessary. And since there is a hierarchy, there will be vertical division of labor, that this is what you are responsible for. DM is responsible for what is happening in the district, the commissioner is responsible for something else, chief secretary is responsible for something else, cabinet secretary is responsible for something else. So because of this alignment is there in the context of vertical division of labor, you can hold people accountable that this is on your part that it has done. And that is why you will be held responsible. So that is how it promotes efficiency. And when you have already divided the roles vertically, accordingly you have to assign them powers also. You have to assign them authority also. Suppose SP, you have given the responsibility that you have to maintain law and order, that you will be held responsible for whatever is happening in your district. And there will be various DSPs who will be working under this SP. Under the DSP, there will be inspectors. Under inspector, there will be sub-inspector. Under sub-inspector, there will be constables. Yes or no? So if the SP is given so much of responsibility that you will be held responsible for whatever happening is under your district, and you will be supervising over all the district, then should he be given not the authority to rule over the subordinate in the context that he can pass disciplinary orders against them? Otherwise how else he will maintain the law and order? How else he will ensure that his order is followed? He has to be given some authority. Understood or not? And that is why the authority and hierarchy are traditional hallmark of Bavarian bureaucracy. In large organization, you will always see there is a hierarchy that is there. And that hierarchy help individual into understanding that this is my work, this is what I have to supervise, and this much authority comes with my area of work, and I will be held responsible for this. Understood or not? So hierarchy is very much important, a very, very important element of Bavarian bureaucracy. And then division of labor. Here it is talking about horizontal division of labor. Someone is doing accounting, someone is doing finance, someone is doing something else. So basically he's saying that because he wants bureaucrats to behave like mechanic, that they are doing something repeatedly one after the other, so much so that they become very much efficient in what they are doing. And that will only be possible when they are repeatedly doing what they are doing. So there has to be very specific division of labor that this is what you should do. So the job has to be broken down in simple, routine and well-defined tasks so that the efficiency improves. If you are an accountant, you will be doing accounting only all your life. That is what division of labor is all about from the perspective of bureaucracy. Understood? If you are into police, then you will be doing the policing only all the time, so that you can become better at it. Understood or not? So that is division of labor from the perspective of Bavarian bureaucracy, that this is horizontal division of labor. Earlier, king will do legislature, executive, judiciary, all the thing. He will make the law, he will implement the law, he will pronounce judgment also. But he said there has to be division of labor. Understood or not? So it is very, very important. Then career orientation are there. If you are district magistrate and you are managing a district and a bungalow has been allocated to you, then do you own that bungalow? You don't own that bungalow. No, suppose you are managing 10,000 crores of money of Manrega. Then do you own that money? You don't own that money. You are simply manager of that money. Your job is that money should be very efficiently used for the purpose it has been issued. Understood or not? That Manrega should be efficiently implemented. Very neutrality. Understood or not? So that is career orientation, that they are career professional. They are not the owners of the unit that. How many of you have worked in the private sector? Any company. In which company you worked? Okay. Precision equipment. Okay, so suppose you are working in precision equipment. Okay, so when you are working in, what was your role? You are project manager. So he was project manager, and his job would be that a project should be completed in time and so on and so forth, and he has to ensure everything gets aligned. Was he owner of the project? Was he getting any profit out of that project, even though the project may be, the expenditure may be running in crores of rupees? He was simply getting salary. So that is the perspective of bureaucrats, that they are the career professional. They are doing things for a salary. That they are career professional. They will be paid salary for what they are doing. They will not be that you are the owner and you will be given some profit. No. They are not the owner. They will not be given any profit. They are simply the career professional. They are paid salary for that. So even if it is loss, even if it is profit, they are paid for what they are doing. Understood or not? So that is the orientation, that career orientation. Earlier, people used to believe, Senapati used to believe that the army is mine only. Treasury officer will believe that this treasury, all the money, it is mine only. So they will have this sense of ownership when they were actually managing things. So that's what he improved in saying that it is not your resources. You are simply here to manage, and after 30-35 years of service, you will retire also. But the job will continue. Earlier, the district was managed by some other DM. Now you are managing it. Later, someone else will manage it. Because all of you are simply career professional. Understood or not? You are not the owners. And that is why you should not attach any value or emotion to it. And all your focus should be ruthless implementation of rules and regulation, objectivity. Then, of course, impersonality. Impersonality means that there should not be any personal value or any personal preference that should guide your decision making. It should be rules and regulations. It should be rules and regulation. As far as possible, focus should be on written rules and regulation. The formal aspect of rules and regulation will guide the decision making. There will not be any personal values that will guide your decision making. So, if you are a Jain and you are managing, let's say, the poultry department, then your personal preference of non-violence should not lead to you not enforcing the policies of the poultry department efficiently. Because that is what you need to be value neutral, essentially value neutral. There is no personal bias that is there. You have to ruthlessly implement the rules and regulation. Understood or not? So, with me, all of you please revise. What are the essential characteristics of Bavarian bureaucracy? It is formal selection method, authority hierarchy is there, then division of labor is there, then their career orientation that is there, then written rules and regulations are there, division of labor it is there, then division of labor it is there, and then impersonality or basically value neutrality it is there. Yes? Understood? So these are, and do they not have merits? Do these characteristics, do they have merit or not? They have merit. Can you, if you look at all the large organizations, be it government or be it private, bureaucracy, bureau basically means office. So the bureaucracy, these characteristics are applicable to both private and public organizations. Have you seen any large private organization without hierarchy? Do you know the Reliance organization, it runs without hierarchy? Of course there will be hierarchy that will be there. The people who are working in Reliance organization, engineers whom the Reliance is recruiting from the college, they are having career orientation only. They are not the owners. And they cannot, involve their personal decision that we don't believe in this. We don't like Anant Ambani because Mumbai Indian is losing all the time. So, no personal preference is there. They have to be fair. They have to mechanically implement what their bosses are telling them. So that is the relevance of Babar, that even now after so many years, his characteristic is there. Whenever you are running a large office, bureau is office only in bureaucracy, whenever you are running a large office, these are the characteristics you are bound to have, whether it is government or whether it is public. Usually we associate bureaucracy with public only, but bureaucracy essentially means office. So it is private organization also. Understood or not? So basically that is why you see all these characteristics in almost every large organization, and they have relevance. Without formal selection method, how will you ensure merit is there? There will be. Without impersonality, how will you ensure that personal biases are not, are ruining the decision making? Because how will you ensure standardization after that? Suppose UPSC, it start conducting interview without impersonalization. So any member will take decision, meri caste ka tu aaja, tu mere liyanga tu aaja, nahi tu chala ja. Then what will happen? Impersonality, there will not be any standardization in the decision making process. Understood or not? Without this formal rules and regulation, how will you hold government accountable? How will you hold any decision making accountable? If it is not there in the files, how will you hold the officer accountable for what he has done, what he has taken that particular decision when he was in the office? Without division of labor, how will you ensure efficiency? Because if you are giving all the tasks to the officer, then how will he increase his expertise? And that is one of the criticism that is there in the context of IAS also, that they are not having domain expertise. They are too generalist in nature. They must cultivate domain specialization. The second year have recommended that. So basically, now we see that all these characteristics, even though we hear Bavarian bureaucracy from a very negative connotation, still it has some merit. So when I ask you that, do you think bureaucratic attitude and democratic attitude, it can go hand in hand? Then yes, to an extent, it can go hand in hand, because the merit-based formal selection method is nothing but democratic attitude only, that you are giving equal opportunity to everyone who is participating in this examination. Yes or no? Formal rules and regulation is nothing but ensuring rule of law. That is the part of democratic attitude. That people are, when they are managing the resources, they are not the owners of the resources. Owners of the resources are people. The resources, they belong to the people of this country. They are simply managing them as their trustee. So yes, democratic attitude. Impersonality, because it ensures that there is no prejudice. Otherwise, people will take decision based on the caste, based on the sex, based on the region, based on the religion. So because of impersonality, there is uniformity of the application of law. So yes, we see that the bureaucratic attitude aligns very well with the democratic attitude to an extent. I am saying to an extent because there is criticism also. So now, have all of you understood the positive side of Bavarian bureaucracy or not? Because usually we see the negative side only all the time. The question was there 2016, that can bureaucratic and democratic attitude align with each other? Then yes, it is actually in alignment only. Understood or not? But as we know that Bavar has been criticized left, right and center. All these characteristics, they will actually having the negative consequence also. Almost each of these characteristics. So let us talk about value neutrality. That because of value neutrality, it is excessively focusing on objectivity. That is facts and facts only, and that will make you apathetic. The PDS officer will simply shun the eyes and say, since you are not meeting the eligibility criteria, I cannot help you, please go away. So that is the apathetic response. Even though it is legal, even though it is objective, but it is apathetic, it is unethical. But Bavar is not concerned with respect to that. Bavar is talking about general, that objectivity. You have to follow objectivity. So the objectivity may actually lead to apathy. Understood or not? That we have discussed already. Yes, then Bavar believed in closed system. By closed system, I think I've already discussed, but again I will discuss. Because you see, in Bavarian bureaucracy, whenever this division of labor is there, let's say these are the various division of labor, and all these people are reporting to some people, and under them some people are there. In all, they are not considering people. They are taking decision within themselves only. Either they are considering their supervisor, their colleague, but they are not considering people. They are not considering the most important stakeholder. For them, they don't exist. They will simply take rules and regulation and policy from the political executive, and they will ruthlessly implement them. They will not take care of the people. I mean, they will not listen to the people. They will not seek feedback from them, because Bavar believed in that closed system. Understood or not? So it promotes that closed system, and that is why it promotes colonial hangover, colonial legacy, my bap attitude. That since we are implementing Manrega, we are giving you 100 days of employment, you should be grateful to us. That is the attitude that is there, as if they are distributing the money to them from their own pocket. Understood or not? And the purpose of this administration is that it will be implementing the policies that have been framed by political executive. Understood? So that is why the focus will always be on the implementation of the policies rather than working on the variables that actually lead to change. And that is why it will promote status quoism, just like colonial administration, which was more focused on revenue collection and law and order maintenance. That was regulatory administration. I think many of you have not yet got the feel of regulatory administration and developmental administration. Let me give you the feel. Hypothetically, okay. Hypothetically, let's assume that you have now become the district magistrate. Okay, you are the DM, and when you become DM, you have all the aspiration that you will do so many good things for education. For education is something that is really close to your heart. And when you are indulging in various education activities, automatically you will be, having the developmental aspect covered. Yes, it is very much clear. But when you reach office, you realize that there are tons of files that are there on your desk because you are district magistrate. Since you are district magistrate, there are lot many lands, conversion, everything that need your sign. Lot many files already are there, and entire day your day is consumed reading those files and assigning them. So you are not able to implement what actually was close to your heart, basically education. And then you also know that you are member of, let's say, 40 to 45 committees in the district. There are 40 to 45 committees, and you are chairperson of them, you are member of them, and you have to attend those meetings. So all of your time is consumed by those meetings only. And that's why you are not able to come out of the collectorate even for once, because you are so consumed by the work. You are so consumed by the clearance only, land clearance, and all these revenue collection, all these files that are there, district magistrate signs are required. That can be the work. And because of that, all your focus is on implementing the rules and regulations that are already there. That is regulatory administration. You are merely regulating the thing rather than actually taking stock of the situation, that what are the weak areas of the district. Basically, probably education is very good, health is not very good, probably health, education both are very good, and let's say skills are not there, or let's say employment opportunity are not there, or let's say agriculture is not there, everything else is good. So rather than working on those specific variables, you have simply have become a regulatory administrator, and you are simply regulating the thing. I will give another example, to make you very much understand this concept of regulatory administration. Suppose you have to make a policy. You have to make a policy on AI, artificial intelligence. And your policy, is simply that the private companies should do this, private companies should not do this, private companies should not do this, because you want to regulate them. That they should not collect data like this. The regulations are like that they should not collect data, or they need to register in this office, they need to seek compliance for this and this. These are regulatory aspect only. There is nothing developmental aspect in the sense that you are telling them that we will hold a hackathon, for example, in which each of the private organization will compete and show their innovation, and these are the developmental aspect which will actually promote innovation from the perspective of AI. समझ में नहीं आया आपको? I will give another example. Let us take the case of NGOs. Now, government have lot many regulations for NGOs. If you are an NGO, you have to declare all these funding, audit, everything. So many regulations are there. So government focus is more on the regulation of NGO rather than developing NGOs as a sector, and that will demand that government should ease down the regulation so that anyone can register very easily. That will demand that government supports lot many NGOs financially. So that is developmental aspect, and this is regulatory aspect. So when you become a bureaucrat, at times your mind, from the Bavarian perspective, he was more inclined towards regulatory administration, that you have to implement rules and regulations very, very mechanically. Because when you are implementing them, it is leaving you no space actually to think creatively, and you cannot also actually think creatively because you have to be value neutral. To think creatively would mean what? You have to think from your own value neutrality, but you have to be very neutral, you have to be impersonal, you cannot involve your personal preferences. You have to simply mechanically implement the rules and regulations. So you are like a district magistrate who is going on a desk, who is seeing the file, who is signing the files as per the rules and regulations. So you are not worried what the district is going through, what initiative you should do. And that is what developmental administration is all about, in which you anticipate what district will face, in which you anticipate the strength and weakness of the district, and then you actually act on them. Understood or not? Understood or not? अभी समझ में आ गया आपको? So that is what the regulatory administration of the Weber is all about. that it is making the system status quoist in nature. And of course, when there is too much of focus on formal rules and regulation, it will lead to the red tapeism only. If you go to SBI or any government job, any government work that is there, they will ask you to submit so many documents. And you will be like, bhai kya hai? Ek baar mein le lo na kya hai? Yes, so that is what the focus on formalism is all about. That is what the focus on written rules and regulation is all about. Understood or not? So that is the perspective that is there. That imagine you are going for a simple job. Imagine industrialist setting up an industry. How many regulation, how many files he will need to submit. And that will lead to, because there excessive focus on written rules and regulation, because of that things will be slowed down. Understood or not? I will give you an example. Once I was discussing this with one of my students who was an IRS officer, and he said, sir, we cannot, although we can get laptops at very great discount from Flipkart and Amazon sale, still we cannot get them. Because there is a set procedure that we have to follow. The procedure is tender and everything. And in those tender, inevitably, the price is usually higher than the sale at times. At times it happens. So, that's how rigid or mechanical you may become in terms of following rules and regulation, and that is the downside of it. That rules become the end in themselves, and you follow them just like as if following rules only is the end. Just like the traffic constable who was following the rules only. He was not realizing that rules are there for some good end. Understood? Then hierarchy. Too much emphasis on hierarchy can actually create hurdle in team building, because it can give you a superiority complex. When DMs go on a visit, do you see how other people behave? They behave as if God has arrived. Yes, they behave like that. So it gives that person a lot of superiority complex, as if he's the God. So because of that, team building, it is not there. Then division of labor. If you divide lot of work very minutely, it will create problem of division only. I give you the example. RTI, transparency, for transparency you are having RTI, for maintaining secrecy you are having official secretary, then there will be collusion only. Understood? So there can be problem of coordination. This we will discuss later in the context of work culture. So there will be problem of coordination that will be there. Understood? So these are the problems of Bavarian bureaucracy, that for each of these good characteristics there are downside of it. Apart from that, you can also add other side of negativity. From the perspective of skill also you can add that that they are journalist in nature. Yes, that also you can add. Then corruption is there. Corruption perception index you can add. Yes, so basically from your paper 2 governance perspective, you can add other attribute of Bavarian bureaucracy also. Journalist, corruption, everything. Understood? So what should be the administration? So administration should move from merely being regulatory administration to developmental administration. A developmental administration, is participation oriented. It asks people to participate, in policy making, in framing of laws, policy making, policy monitoring, policy evaluation. So social audit is an example of that. A bureaucrat who is very much self-centered, who is believing in closed system, will never invite people to actually do the social audit. Because in social audit, you are actually checking the effectiveness of the program from the perspective of those whom you are intending to benefit. समझ में आया कि नहीं आया ये? No. You are implementing the MNREGA, So one way to evaluate the effectiveness of MNREGA is that bureaucrats evaluate themselves, that how much money they have disbursed, how much guarantee of job that they have created. One way is doing that is a closed system approach. Another way is they are asking people to participate at Gram Panchayat level, that you participate and you tell us how effective we were when we were doing the MNREGA, and then perhaps they will tell you that none of us got the job. Our names are there, but we never got the job. We never got the payment. So basically, it is highlighting corruption. It is highlighting ghost beneficiary. So social audit is a way to evaluate the policy making from the perspective of those whom you are intending to benefit. So that is what development administration will do. It will ask people to, participate in policy evaluation. It will ask people to participate in policy making also. That they will give suggestion what kind of policy will be there. Like farm laws, that they should not bulldoze the laws. They should invite the concern of the people. So participation oriented. Understood or not? Then socio-economic change. The administration should aim at socio-economic change like end poverty and hunger, FDG goals that are there, rather than simply maintaining status quo like Britishers used to do. That only thing we have to do is we have to collect revenue and ensure there is no law and order problem because we have to just maintain the empire. No, you have to strive for socio-economic change. Did British strive for that? No. They did not care what was literacy of India, what was healthcare parameter of India, famine was there or not. They were not cared. Whatever good they wanted to do, they wanted to do for their own benefit only. So, socio-economic change. Then time orientation. Everything has a time target. End poverty by this much, doubling of urban income by this. The timeline should be there. Time orientation. Innovation should be there. You should not become status quo. You should not become too rigid. Innovation should be there. Then ecological orientation, sustainability, aspect of sustainability should be there. Then responsiveness. You should be responsive to the grievances of the people whom you are serving. In closed system, you are not responsive. You don't believe what your citizens are saying. You are simply implementing what you know. You are not willing to take feedback from them and then you are responding to them. So responsiveness is one of the hallmark of developmental administration. For example, citizen charter. For example, CP Grams, grievance redressal portal that is there, through which citizen can raise their grievances and government is responding to them. So that is responsiveness. Commitment. There has to be commitment to the citizen that this is what is the quality of service we will provide. For example, citizen charter. That is what you can expect from us. Commitment has to be there. Not like, dekh lenge jo hoga to hoga, nahi to nahi hoga. It is not. It should not be the attitude like that. Then client orientation, that your focus, your job, your prime job is to serve people. Citizens should be at the heart of what you are doing rather than anything else. When you are district magistrate, your job, the central part of your job, your posting should be that you have to serve the people of the district. It should not be that now that I have become district magistrate, I should get good dowry or basically I should get fame and everything. The central part of whatever you are doing, or I should be in the good books of the chief minister. The centrality should be client orientation. Client in this case is citizen only. And action and goal oriented. There should be goals that you should pursue. In Bavarian bureaucracy, you are not having goals. You understand goals? Whenever district magistrate come to a posting, how many of them do you think will give goals to themselves? This is what they will strive for when they are in district. Not many of them, because they are simply there and they will implement whatever they were doing and not actually do any change on the ground. Many of the bureaucrats are like that only. Only few of them when they come to this posting, they are so motivated that they plan and they implement the change. Understood? So action and goal-oriented administration system that should be there. Understood or not? So now we have understood that in what background there was need for Bavarian bureaucracy, what are the attributes of Bavarian bureaucracy, and what should be the change, what are the merits and what are the demerits. So now when we say that can bureaucratic attitude and democratic attitude go hand in hand, so to some extent yes, and to some extent no, because these are the negatives that are associated with the Bavarian, the bureaucratic attitude that is there. That they become too much formalistic in nature, rules become and apathetic, and that goes against, they become unresponsive. My attitude is there, and that goes against democratic attitude. Understood or not? Yes, and instead of this is how administration should behave. They should be goal-oriented, action-oriented, and so on, responsive, client-oriented, innovation should be there and everything. Understood? So now you can please note it. If there is any other doubt, please ask. Any doubt? Please ask in the chat. Ecological orientation has two meanings. One is sustainability, that whatever you are doing should be sustainable from the ecological perspective, environmental perspective. Another perspective is that you are not behaving like in closed system. That you are not behaving like a closed system, that this is the bureaucracy, it will only implement. You are having ecological system, basically environmental perspective. In this environment, citizens are there, media is there, private sector is there. So you are considering their interest also, you are interacting them with all the time. So that is another perspective of ecological orientation. Yes, any other doubt? Niche. नीचे ले आई नीचे नीचे एनी अदर डाउट career orientation aligns with the trusteeship principle of Gandhiji? Not necessarily. Trusteeship principle of Gandhiji was much wider in the perspective. Not necessarily. Why we are saying bureaucratic model is Weber only? Because Weber's bureaucratic model is most popular. That is why Shubhangi. Bureaucracy, all these characteristics that we are looking at in almost all the organization, those characteristics are provided by Weber only. That is why, from the perspective of Weber, we have discussed.
How is division of labor provided by most division of labor? So Weber's model promotes division of labor.
Yes.
So how is it negative?
Because too much of division of labor. Okay, I will give you an example. So you divide jurisdiction between different police stations. Yes, that division of labor only. That Karol Bagh Thana UC, Patel Nagar Thana UC, something like that. So basically division of labor geographically, if it is there. Suppose a woman come to you, and you see, and she says that she is from Karol Bagh only, but she was molested in Patel Nagar. So an excessive division of labor will make you look at only very narrowly, and you will say that it is not in my jurisdiction, please go to Patel Nagar. And when she go to Patel Nagar, the people will say, no, go to Karol Bagh because you live there only. So at times, the too much division of labor, can make you overlook the larger picture. And it can create problem of coordination. For example, environmental ministry is there and finance ministry is there. So you have divided the work. The job of environmental ministry is to protect the environment. Job of finance ministry is to promote GDP, bring investment and everything. But environment ministry, if it look at their job, very mechanically, that they have to conserve environment only all the time, then they will sit on the files all the time.
Working in silos.
Yes, working in silos is that. Done? What is status quoism? You are cute. I don't think I'm mentioning this for the first time. Udit? Status quoism is basically, just like colonial administration, when they were there, what they all cared about, that they just have to ensure that the revenue is collected on time and law and order problem is not there. So they were maintaining a status quo. They were not implementing anything that will improve the situation of the people drastically, like education, skills, like that. That is status quo. So bureaucrats have that attitude at times. Can we say efficiency in small organizations can be brought by adopting Bavarian principles? Not necessarily. Small organizations, suppose your father runs a kirana shop, suppose that is the case. Then your father is an accountant also, your father is marketing officer also, chief technological officer, chief marketing officer, CEO, MD, everything your father only. Because he cannot afford to divide the work in so many silos. So not necessarily. And that can be effective also at times. So not necessarily. Understood, Divya? It depends on the context. But some of the attribute, yes, we can adopt. Suppose the business grows, the business of your father grows like anything, and instead of inviting a talented individual from outside, he gives the responsibility of that organization to you, and your interest lies elsewhere, then it will be bad decision. Then perhaps he will benefit a lot by Bavarian principle of merit-based recruitment. How many of you come from business family? Government service? Done? और ऑनलाइन वालों समझ में आ गया? आंसर तो कर दो. You were there yesterday online, है? क्या नाम है आपका? You were answering? Okay. Okay then, let us move to the next important school of ethics, that is justice. Tomorrow we will read about modern thinkers. I think today we will cover justice only. So, justice. So, what does this school believe? Something you already know. All these terms, all of you have heard already. Yes, social justice, political justice. Shall I discuss them? That you already heard, na? In preamble it is there. Yes. So, justice is basically be fair. Yes, that you are being fair. So one of the great theory that has been propounded for justice is by John Rawls. He says that how you can create a just society, a society in which fairness is valued, in which you are practicing fairness. Suniye dhyan se, it is important. So he says that you can create a just society by creating just institutions. The institutions which are just in nature, the institutions which are fair in nature. So, if you want to build a just society, you have to create just institutions. What are institutions? Police, military, judiciary, caste, all these are institutions only. UPSC, yes. So, basically, by creating fair institutions, by creating just institutions, you can ensure just society will be there, because those institutions will distribute reward and punishment fairly. Suppose you have made a police institution and you have made a judiciary. Judiciary is an institution. The judiciary will ensure that punishment is given very fairly. Will it be fair that if murder is done by someone else and someone else is punished? It will not be fair. Yes. So we have to create an institution like judiciary, which will examine all the evidences, everything, and then it will award the punishment to the person who actually committed the crime. For that, we have created police institution and judiciary as an institution. So both the institutions collectively will ensure that justice has been done. Actually, there is 4 limbs of criminal justice system. You know them? No? So suppose the question comes on, it will come in paper 2 only, not here. Criminal justice system. So when you are talking about criminal justice system, you have to talk from the perspective of police, you have to talk from the perspective of prosecution, you have to talk from the perspective of judiciary, and 4th limb is prison. All these 4 limbs together will ensure that justice is done. Understood? So they are basically institutions that we have created to ensure that there is justice. The prosecution will ensure that that one is that is arguing, yes, and the police will ensure the investigation is done properly, and judiciary will give the judgment, and prison will be the place where he will face the punishment as well as opportunity to reform that person. Understood or not? So we have created those institutions to ensure that reward and punishment are distributed fairly. So in order to create a just society, you need to create just institution. Because see, if police is not there, judiciary is not there, then what will happen? If this person is killing someone, then if he is powerful, then he will make someone else pay for it. He will say that, no, this person has been murdered by this person rather than me. So there has to be some other institution which will ensure which will verify, which will investigate. Yes or no? So basically, to ensure all these things, we have to create just institution. That is the perspective of John Rawls. But how to create just institution? And for that, he recommends wheel of ignorance. Wheel of ignorance. The wheel of ignorance is very much, four limbs are police, prosecution, judiciary and prison. So, just institutions. So, he says how to create just institutions. He says by wheel of ignorance. When you are creating those institutions, you must have a wheel means parda. Yes, that you must be under some sort of ignorance. But ignorance with respect to what? Ignorance with respect to your original position. That you should not know your position in the society when you are creating those institutions. So suppose you are creating a caste institution and you don't know whether you will be born as an upper caste or a higher caste because you are having this wheel of ignorance. Then will you ever create untouchability as the part of caste system? No, because rationally thinking, if we are having this wheel of ignorance, if we don't know what is the caste that I am going to born in, then I will think very rationally and logically and I will say that no, we should not have untouchability in caste system because I may be born as lower caste individual. So when I am having this wheel of ignorance, I am thinking very fairly, without any prejudice. And that is what wheel of ignorance is all about. When you are creating reservation system, that we already discussed, that whether we should have reservation as an idea or not, all of us will agree that yes, if there is a lot of inequality in society, there has to be an idea of reservation. Because it may be possible that we may be born as the people from weaker section of the society and then we will need the reservation. So yes, when we are deciding whether we should have reservation or not, then we should have this wheel of ignorance in which we don't know whether we will come from weaker section or a stronger section of society. Because then only we will be able to think fairly, objectively, and if we think from that perspective and if we think rationally, then all of us will arrive at just institutions only, an institution that is fair to all of us because we will not have any prejudice or bias because of wheel of ignorance. And that is why he says, that it will, people are, you are unaware of the status or the position of society, and by being ignorant of your circumstances, you can more objectively consider how society should operate. So that is why rational thinking and not morality will decide, a very, very important argument. Since I am having this rational perspective, then if I am thinking very logically, then logically only I will think the untouchability should not be part of caste system. So it is my rationality and logical thinking which is telling me that I should be fair. So this fairness is the result of my logical thinking. And anyone who is in my position will think similarly only, logically only, rationally only, that untouchability should not be part of caste system because I am having this wheel of ignorance. Similarly, patriarchy as an institution should not be there because I don't know whether I will be born as a male or female in the society. So since I don't know whether I will be born as a male or female, then I should not have this kind of restriction that whether the women should be allowed to study or not, whether they should be allowed to, do the job or not, and everything. Because then I will think rationally, bhai hona to chahiye na, women ko bhi job hona chahiye, because I can also be born as a man. So by having this wheel of ignorance, now I am thinking more freely, more rationally, and because of that I am more fair. I am more fair to others. Understood or not? And that is why this fairness is the result of rationality. Not because of any divine thinking that you will go to Swarg, you will go to Nark, you will go to hell if you do some immoral action. No, your action are result of logical thinking and rationality only if you think very clearly, if you think from the perspective of wheel of ignorance. Understood or not? So now, when we are creating those institutions, we are having this wheel of ignorance. Understood? But when we are creating those institutions, what should be the objective of those institutions? The objective should be that they should ensure the greatest equal liberty to everyone. All citizens should have basic rights and liberties with a similar set of liberties for all. Basically, the institution should try to maximize liberty to every individual. And liberty essentially means that you are able to express yourself, you are able to pursue your potential. And if that means that I should be able to create a circumstance and environment in which you are flourishing, in which you are realizing your potential, that is a true test of liberty. Yes or no? So I should ensure that each of the individual, if I am an institution, that each of the individual is pursuing maximum liberty. Maximum liberty. Understood or not? And in doing so, if at all it happens, that there is any sort of inequality that is there, then that inequality should favor weaker section of the society. For example, reservation. If subsidy has to be given, then we should give subsidy to poor people. So, if any difference is there, then that difference should be in the favor of weaker section of the society. Another very important aspect of this institution is that when you are building this institution, when it is ensuring the greatest equal liberty to everyone, it is not just talking about, the institution is not just talking about that there should be equality before law, or that everyone should be equal before rule of law. It is the passive way of looking at the things. Suppose you are born as a poor, you are born as a lower caste individual. Then, yes, law will not discriminate against you, but it will not be the case that you will automatically come out of your poverty. For that, you should be given equal opportunity to gain skills. Equal opportunity should be there, and that is why this is very, very important, equal opportunity principle, because it aims at removing the structural limitations on progress of the individuals, and not just legal equality, that all of you are equal before the law. And that is a bureaucratic perspective of status quo. That is, all of you are equal before the law. If I have to distribute any benefit, I will distribute equally. It is not just enough. Some people may require equal opportunity to gain skill and education. Understood or not? Understood or not? And that is why it says that all citizens with the similar level of talent and willingness to use them should have the same educational and economic opportunities, regardless of whether they were born rich and poor, and not only equal opportunity to occupy offices and positions, but also reasonable opportunity to acquire skills. So basically, you are removing the structural limitations on their progress by giving them opportunity to grow, by providing them the opportunity to acquire those skills so that they can also grow and be at par with other people. So his concept of equal opportunity principle is not just ensuring that there is legality. From legal perspective, all of you are equal. From legal perspective, all of you are equal. Suppose there is only one IIT institution, and that institution is in Delhi, and that institution, let's say, is not differentiating between anyone, it is treating everyone equally, mechanically equally. Yes, then it is not enough. It is not enough. The should provide opportunity for the people from the weaker section of society to compete in the competitive examination for the entrance to the IIT. That is what the reasonable opportunity to acquire skills. So, equal opportunity principle actually breaks the structural limitations that are there, for the people from weaker section to grow. And it is not just about the legal equality that is there. Understood or not? This is very, very important concept of genre. Fairness will only be there when you are actually striving for that very actively by ensuring this equal opportunity and providing them opportunity to learn those skills. And that is why, government also provide coaching to the people from weaker section of the society. And that coaching, the Delhi government, it said very proudly that, people have qualified to the IIT JEE from the schools and so, because it provides the coaching to them. So, it is a responsibility of the government that it removes the structural limitation that is there. And if at all any difference is there in terms of liberty, then it should be in the favor of weaker section of the society. Understood or not? So that is what John Rawls says. A, that in order to create a just society, you need to create just institutions. Institutions will decide how rewards and punishment are, they are given fairly to all the stakeholder. Yes. And how to create just institutions by being in the original position, by having this wheel of ignorance in which we cannot think of our own perspective, that we don't know our own position, and that is why we will think rationally, and when we think logically we will be very fair only, and that is why it will result into just institutions, fair institutions. Those fair institutions will strive to maximize liberty to everyone, because when you try to maximize liberty to everyone, then only you will have overall greatest liberty in the society. And in doing so, you should also ensure that there should be not just equality before the law from the perspective of legal, mechanical legality, but also real opportunity for people to grow, so that they can break free of structural barriers that are there for them to grow, so that you can provide them educational opportunities and opportunity to acquire a skill by providing equal opportunity principle. And if at all you have to differentiate, then that differentiation should be in the favor of weaker section of the society. Understood or not? And the criticism are very much obvious in the context of John Rawls, that it is very much idealistic to think that one is always rational, that one will be totally ignorant of one's status. It is not usually possible, and that is why it is very much idealistic to believe that people will make the policy under wheel of ignorance. It is very difficult to be ignorant. People are inherently biased towards themselves. And evaluation of fairness, it might not always be possible, it might have some difficulty. Now, Amartya Sen gave this very beautiful example that suppose there are 3 children and 1 flute, and 3 children, one of them has made the flute, another children, knows how to play the flute, and the third children does not have any toy to play with. Then to whom you will give this flute? And that is why fairness, evaluation of fairness, may be a bit difficult at times. So this is a theoretical perspective. You need not remember it actually, but this is important, and all these things are important that we have just discussed. So please note it. This is nothing but social economic political justice. This is preamble. Nitish, I think you can omit that example. It is not that important. Yes, capitalism versus socialism example of golden mean. Yes, you can talk about that. You can use the concept of justification in the case studies by wheel of ignorance, that how will rational people behave, how you should be in favor of weaker section. Because, shall I discuss another concept? कर सकते हैं क्या? See, have I discussed that a nation's progress is judged how it treats its women? So that context is only because weaker people, they cannot stand for themselves, they cannot speak, they do not have access to power. So that is why it is important that weaker people are treated much more fairly than others. If difference is there, it should be in their favor. So in case study, that is what you can argue. Just and fair are same thing only. Bever belong to which school? Or you have separate school? Bever has his own school, bhai. Feedback loop behavior in which context? Wheel of ignorance similar to Kant's categorical imperative. Yes, I discussed that. Not categorical imperative per se, but the way wheel of ignorance is asking you to be free from your own biases, from that perspective only. Yes, it is sufficient for today. Yes, I will not teach further. Don't worry. It is the last topic today. बता दो भाई, खत्म करेंगे थिंकर को भी यहीं पे. आई थॉट ऑफ इंक्लूडिंग अदर थिंकर्स ऑल्सो. मॉरल ओनली, तभी तो मॉरल ही है कि आपको फेयर रहना है सबके साथ. हाँ, सो मॉरलिटी और जो फेयरनेस इज द रिजल्ट ऑफ रैशनल थिंकिंग, लॉजिकल थिंकिंग. आप कोई इसलिए नहीं सोच रहे हो कि अनटचेबिलिटी नहीं होनी चाहिए कि भगवान पाप लगेगा, है ना, तो वो नहीं है कोई प्रिंसिपल. आप लॉजिकली सोचोगे तो भी अनटचेबिलिटी नहीं होनी चाहिए, वो ये कह रहा है. हाँ हाँ, इवेंचुअली मॉरल ओनली, बट इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ रैशनैलिटी, लॉजिकली. Yes, yes, Kanak, that is right. When it benefits the weaker section. Done? Done? Okay. So tomorrow I think we will discuss right-based approach, and after that some modern day thinkers. Bhagavad Gita also will discuss, and some other part we'll discuss. We'll extend the philosophies. I'm taking huge risks there. Okay. So rational thinking and not morality. It means that why should untouchability be part of caste system? Okay, so people will say कि भैया पाप लगेगा, अगर आप ऐसे बिहेव करोगे तो he is saying पाप पुण्य की वजह से मत डरो. अगर आप लॉजिकली भी सोचोगे तो भी आप पाओगे कि अनटचेबिलिटी नहीं होनी चाहिए. वुमेन पर जो रिस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं पढ़ने को लेके और उसको लेके, ठीक है, वो रिस्ट्रिक्शंस इसलिए नहीं होनी चाहिए कि पाप लगेगा, काली माता आपको मार देगी आके, इसलिए नहीं होने चाहिए. तो रैशनल थिंकिंग लॉजिकली भी सोचोगे तो नहीं होने चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर आप मर्द और औरत के बीच के भेद को हटा दें एक मिनट के लिए, जब आप डिसाइड कर रहे हैं कि हाउ शुड वुमेन बिहेव, देन इफ यू थिंक लॉजिकली देन यू विल अराइव दैट दे शुड नॉट हैव दैट काइंड ऑफ कंस्ट्रेंट. That is the meaning of rationality, and not morality will decide. Ultimately, it will lead to morality only, but it is because of logical thinking rather than because of, let's say, divine thinking or some other aspect. Thank you, Shashank. I hope you are able to understand, because from the face of you guys, I never get to understand whether you are understanding or not. Wheel of ignorance wali slide. I have added some more thinkers. I thought we will reach it there today, but I think tomorrow we will cover them. Sir, can you provide topic specific PYQ question after every class? Can you please go through them on your own? It will help you. It will help you. डन? समझ में आ रहा है ना आप लोगों को? ईमानदारी से बताओ, मुझे से डाउट लगता है. चलो देखेंगे, अभी तो आंसर राइटिंग में देखेंगे कितना आ रहा है. हैं? अरे रुक जाओ भाई, तुम्हें कहाँ जाना है? सीसीडी है भाई. 8 बज गए सर, मैंने टाइम दिया हुआ था किसी को. ओके, चलो बाय बाय, टेक केयर, गुड नाइट.